Welcome to SkoCity Podcast. I'm your host, God's son. I have with me today my guest Matthew. Matthew is a performer here in town, writer and director, so we're going to just sit down and have a nice conversation about the performing arts in Rockford because I was thinking about this earlier. I'm from the '80s. I'm a Generation X kid, right? So when I grew up, there was the New American Theater going on full. Dorothy Page Turner. Even Ann Nesby, Sounds of Blackness,
Yeah.
they were just coming out, Jimmy Wright, So I grew up in that and that mixture, in that milieu, And as time went on, Rockford took a few hits, I know with the when the COVID came along, slowed things down a whole lot. And I think as a culture, we also took a hit in terms of the type of entertainment that's been put out. These. And I'm not going to put people down, but these rappers came along, and they heavily influenced, let's say the Generation Z, Generation Y, Generation Alpha, were heavily influenced by these rappers. First started with gangster rap, and then just drill music, And again, I'm not saying any of that is per se those guys who did that stuff are bad because we all have to find a way to make a living, right?
Right.
So I don't fault you for making a living, but I think they had an influence on our generations coming up.
Yeah.
And so what I've seen is I haven't seen a whole lot of that anymore,
Not a whole lot of the New American Theater, Ann Nesby, Jimmy Wright energy.
Yeah. And I was so glad, and that's one of the problems I got is that I'm not always aware of things, but I was really, really glad when I heard about the play you were doing.
Yeah, okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, The Wind in the Breeze.
Yes, sir, The Wind in the Breeze, man.
Yeah, and so... First of all, let me just tell you this. It got me by surprise because I'm always looking for stuff like that, so I was glad to find it.
Good.
Second thing was I knew at least 4 of the performers, man.
Okay, good.
And so I was really, really excited about it. And I did come. I took photos and everything,
good,
by the way. Yeah.
good.
As a matter of fact, I think that's the first time I met you. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
We took a picture.
Yep, I remember that, man.
Okay,
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So that was a while back. But anyway, though, I am a Renaissance type person.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I get
it.
into literature, art, music, and I kind of think that's, and again, I'm Generation X, bro. So I've been around for a minute.
For
so
sure.
I'm going back to the Harlem Renaissance. You know what I
Wow,
mean?
man. Yes, sir.
When we had, Claude McKay, and Langston Hughes, but then I can go way back to Paul Robeson,
Wow, man.
whom I do admire,
Absolutely.
his stance and his charisma,
activism.
Yeah, But we had a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
And so I don't see a whole lot of that now.
Nah, man. It's different. I'll say, first of all, thank you for having me, SkoCity. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you showing up.
Man, this is special to me. I think I love the idea of for us, by us. You know what I mean?
FUBU.
Creating your own platforms and telling your own story. So it's an honor for me to be here to just chop it up with you and talk about a little bit what we do. As you said, my name is Matt Simpson. I read an essay probably 15 years ago, man. It's kind of aging me, but it's a brother named Aimé Césaire. Aimé Césaire. He wrote an essay called "The Responsibility of the Artist."
Okay.
And I actually read that at Rock Valley College, studying with Miss Paulette Gilbert. I don't know if you know Teresa Gilbert, Paulette Gilbert.
Yes.
Contemporary African literature. Changed everything for me.
Yes.
But the brother, Aimé Césaire, he talked about the responsibility of the artist. He said, it's the artist's responsibility to incite revolution in their people. And it wasn't violent revolution, but it was like cultural revolution, intellectual, in terms of an identity. How do you change your identity? And he's talking about the comedian, the dancer, the artist, the singer, the writer, the painter. Nowadays we got the rapper, the actors. He said that it's their responsibility. They have a responsibility to incite revolution, cultural revolution in their people. So he asked the question, what sort of world are you building for your people? He said the artist needs to ask themselves that question. What sort of world are you building for your people? So I'm an artist by way of culture. I came up around hip hop music. You know, I came up in Rockford, in a neighborhood right up the street from the Getaway. You know, right around the corner from the Getaway. So you know, we used to run up there, ride bikes up there. There was events every weekend. There was performances. A lot of talented people in my neighborhood. My father was a singer, karaoke. He was a radio personality.
Okay.
I came up in that, and I learned how powerful it is to have a talent and use it. And today, I'm a partner in a business called 815 Capital.
Okay.
And we do event production underneath this division called the Kings of the Round Table, KORT, so court.
Okay.
So when you came to see the play,
Yeah.
The Wind and the Breeze, we partnered with the West Side Showroom. That was the business.
Yeah.
You know, we produced the play, we cast it, we designed the set. You know, we worked with an amazing artist, Linnea. I directed it. You know, I was the director of the play. You know what I'm saying? And the whole point was to tell our own story. We were very honored to be able to partner with Epic Jones and the West Side Showroom. But so that's my interaction with the art. You know, by way of a business that I'm a partner in.
Okay.
So I'm an entrepreneur, but the culture means everything to me. You know, our heroes, our stories, our values, our principles, and that's how you make a way for yourself by holding on to something that's yours and lifting it up, and not having that be co-opted and it shouldn't be for sale. You shouldn't be able to buy that. You know, people shouldn't be able to give you a check for you to perform that on the spot. You know what I mean? You got to be able to own your own culture and your identity.
Right.
And what I hear you saying is, whereas New American Theater, Dorothy Page Turner, and Nesby, there was a time when we felt a little bit differently about those values and principles. And today, it ain't the same.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And then I think that's one of the reasons why I wanted to put together this podcast, because I wanted to bring that back.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's important, like you said, for the culture, for our culture, because, you know, I'm a historian.
Yeah.
By trade. That's what I do. You know.
Love it.
So I go all the way back.
Love it.
And one of the things that we were able to keep track of our history was through what we call storytelling. Now, there was this myth that Africans didn't have a writing system, which was a myth.
Yes,
you know.
sir. Yeah.
But besides that, there was the storytelling.
Yeah.
You know?
The griot.
And that, and that was part of who we are.
Absolutely, brother.
And I think and there was values, there was morals, there was ethics. All that was taught in those storytelling.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
I can remember, you know, my auntie telling me stories, you know, about my granddad, you know, in the South, you know, what it was like, you know. But and when she would tell me those stories, though, about my granddad, it incited strength in me because he was a man among men.
Come on now.
You know, he didn't back down.
Yeah.
You know what the system was like.
Come on now.
He didn't back down.
That's good.
He forged his way through.
Yes, sir.
And he was a farmer in Tennessee.
Wow.
But he was one of the black farmers who were able to buy his son I think it's John Henry tractor. What do we call it?
Okay. John Deere.
John Deere tractor.
Sir.
You know.
Yep.
So back then, you know, that was probably unheard of.
Huge. Yeah.
He built his house from the ground up.
He built his own house.
And he added actual windows, not the little wooden shutters,
he
right?
had windows.
and I'm just going to say this and we're going to move on. But
for sure.
He ordered those windows. And when they came into town, the people they smashed those windows up.
Wow.
Because they didn't want to see him.
A black man.
But his resilience, you know,
Yes, sir.
This is what part of that story that incited me was he reordered those windows. And then he went to town and he waited for him.
Wow.
And he said, I dare you to break them now.
Yeah.
So those stories, though.
It's powerful, man.
And so that's what I see out of our culture and those stories that we tell. There's certainly different areas to it. Dance, theater, I guess, right?
Yeah,
so what you know, what's the connection, though? Is there a connection between those different arts, between dance and theater?
Yeah.
Or?
For me, what I understand about the different mediums, and it's like it's all communication. So in dance, there are no words necessarily, but the movement and the strength and the poise and the grace of the dancer is communicating something. And in music, a lot of times you may not have lyrics, but the movement and the notes and the blending and the chords and the drums, the rhythm, the bass, melody, is communicating. Even with the art of comedy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You got a brother like Paul Mooney, you know what I mean? Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy. Nowadays, Cat Williams, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Dick Gregory.
The
legend.
Dick Gregory. It's something about, being able to convey a message, a real heavy message, rapping it with some levity, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that's the brilliance of the art and the culture. And in that communication, you're trying to evoke emotion. You're trying to make people feel something. So to me, it's like tapping into the right medium of performance to hit the right emotional chord. I was a part of a choir.
Okay.
Yeah, and
so let me just ask you real quick.
Sure.
I don't mean to cut you, but I just want to. Are you a singer too? Then?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So
that's great, man. That's great.
Yeah, man. I was a part of a choir. I went to school on a choir scholarship for a period of time. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where I learned about like singing in unison, like 50 voices sounding like one voice.
Right.
And how powerful it is to be united, and then training and practicing, how powerful it is, how serious it is to take your craft serious. So yeah, I think there is a difference in all of these mediums, but ultimately it's about conveying emotion, making people feel something.
Yeah.
And like the brother A. Mason says, inciting revolution through those emotions. Like, man, that was powerful. Right. I feel something. I want to act on these feelings. Hopefully you can act in a positive way. That's what the art should do. Right. A lot of times it's not the same. Nowadays, a lot of times the art is not inciting positive actions.
Right.
But that's another story.
Yeah. And I think that's part of that as a culture we saw. And I don't want to be negative. I don't want to say we've lost our way.
Yeah.
I'm going to say we've been straining at a gnat.
Yeah.
And we swallowed a fly.
There you go. Come on now.
But the thing is, I was looking for it, I couldn't find it, but there was a book written a few years ago. It was called Night of the Silent Drums.
Okay.
And it's about the Haitian Revolution.
Whoa.
And what the method of communication that night were the drums.
Wow, man.
They played the drums, and those drums sent a message of, hey, it's time to act now. It's time to go, And I think there was a time, and I'm not saying it's not that time now. You could probably answer it better, but there was a time, though, when I listened to music, I got the urge to go. It was a call to go. That one band, Arrested Development.
Okay,
man, that's the kind of music I was into. That's before. Well, no, that was actually after gangster rap, but that was one of the mainstays of hip hop. Though
it was more balanced.
It was a lot more
balanced.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, we the thing is nowadays you got to do a lot more digging to get that quality music. You got to do a lot more digging. There's a lot of great music out there, and now it's a lot more democratized. So you can be at the crib on your laptop, on your phone with a mic in front of you, and you can put music out to your own audience. So it's a lot more democratized. But the budgets and the resources tend to be behind a different voice and a different message, whereas there was a time when it was more balanced. Nowadays, it ain't balanced at all.
Yeah,
in terms
now
of
it's
the
all
budgets,
about the,
you know what I'm saying?
Money, yeah. And I'm not saying it's bad to be about the money,
Right. You got to eat.
You got to eat.
You got to eat.
So, but I think it becomes tragic when we ignore the damage that we do with that music if it's not balanced.
For sure. Yeah. I think I agree with you. That's why I was speaking to. Everything shouldn't be for sale.
Right.
Everything shouldn't be for sale. You shouldn't be able to write a check to a person that's singing and dancing about, substance abuse, violence against brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? That's crazy. But it's true. And so the consumer need to be a little bit more conscious and discerning. And then we shouldn't be able to just take a check to sing and dance to some nonsense, in my opinion. I know I sound like an old head saying this.
That's okay, though.
I feel it, you know what I mean?
I agree with you 100%. I'm not going to get off on that
For sure.
that soapbox, but I hear you loud and
Yeah,
clear
man.
because we need to take responsibility
Yeah.
for what we produce.
Yeah. It's like you compromising yourself.
Yeah.
You compromising yourself. The things you say out of your mouth,
Yeah.
which are damaging to another person, is taken lightly. It's taken as normal
Yeah.
in a way that is destructive.
Yeah.
Like not to go think piece on it, but and the fact that so many of us maybe are looking for opportunities to get out of a situation,
Mm-hmm.
or we want attention so bad. We want that camera in front of us to get some attention so bad, to feel validated,
Yeah.
that we're willing to compromise our culture, our values,
Our values.
standards, our principles, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and another thing what happens is when we do this misguided, and I'm going to call it misguided music
Yes, sir.
or acting or whatever, you know.
Yep.
I watch a lot of Tyler Perry movies, right? And I get extremely upset at Tyler Perry's movies because
Yeah.
he always, to me,
Yeah.
puts the black female in a negative light, and I don't like that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
either
yeah.
she is being played or misused, or she doesn't have enough sense to know or to recognize. You know, but I go back to what you were saying, and I think about the impact that this will have on our culture.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
what happens is you take a guy like Davon Benton, King Von, right?
Yep. Okay. Wow.
So now you got this guy coming out saying that he was rap's first serial killer, right?
Right. That's crazy, man.
So he's pushing this all across the internet,
Yeah, that's
on
crazy,
YouTube,
man.
and people are sucking up. But the question is this, though. First of all, he wasn't from that environment
Wow.
or that culture, so he doesn't really know anything about it.
Wow.
Second of all, the impact that King Von had was only a result of the impact society had on him, and we never
That's
talk
right. That's
about
true.
that
Yeah, that's
part,
true.
you know,
Yeah.
the mental
Yeah.
health
Yeah, that's true.
of,
Yeah.
you know,
It's like life imitating art, or art imitating life. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? At a certain point, somebody got to just put their hands on it and get it straight.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because otherwise, a lot of things is happening rationalized by money and sales or
Again,
attention.
yeah, yeah.
Or attention, and that's disgusting, man.
And when when you're already mentally ill,
Yeah.
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, for real.
most of us, by the time we're in the 7th grade, we switch from the learning mode
Yeah.
and we go right into the survival mode.
for
And that's
real.
all we begin to think about is how to survive.
Yeah, for real. Yep.
You show me a few dollars,
Right,
that means survival to me.
right, so-
and if I got to sacrifice my dignity and
Yeah,
yours
yeah,
to
yeah,
get
yeah.
it, I'm going to do that,
Right.
you know. And I think that's what's important, that we need to find a way to bring back that message in our music, which I think, personally, it's my opinion, we've lost that message.
For sure.
So the creative process, what goes in that creative process?
Man, like I said, I'm an artist because by way of the business I'm in, I'm an entrepreneur. So we do a lot of event production, and I do sing. I'm a karaoke DJ too.
Okay,
So
okay.
I consider that art, and I love it. And as a product of the culture, I take it seriously. So when it comes to the creative process, for me, it's pulling inspiration and like going out and looking for inspiration. And I find inspiration in a lot of different places. But recently, speaking of music and stuff like that, I was recently listening to Total. Kima, Keisha, and Pam, Total, you know what I'm saying?
Nah, I remember that.
I don't know.
You're not familiar with Total.
I'm not.
You definitely know who
Yeah, you
Total
do.
is.
No,
Bad Boy, 3 women in an R&B group in the 90s, you know what I'm saying? So if you hear it, you will.
Yeah, okay.
That was part of like the whole In Vogue, all of the
TLC.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they probably got by
Escape.
it. Okay,
Yeah,
I remember
Escape.
Escape, TLC, In Vogue, but Total.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to check them out.
Well, man, listen to this song, Kissing You.
Okay.
And when you get to talking about music, instrumentation, the bass line on Kissing You inspired me.
Okay.
I'm listening to that on repeat, and it's just soulful. It's real deep. And the lyrics are beautiful. It's a dope song. So for me, I look for motivation. I look for inspiration that I can pour into the creative process. So I take that motivation and I apply it to what we do as a business.
Okay.
Right now we managing real estate properties.
Okay.
We are doing event production and then we have a coffee shop in downtown Rockford.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you reopened.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
I
we
wanted
back.
I
We back,
wanted to
man.
make it to the reopening, and
Okay.
Noonie B actually told me about you
That's
and
dope.
the coffee shop.
Yeah.
I was headed down there, and that's when I found out that all that stuff had happened.
Yeah.
You know, and so but I'm so glad you guys got
Thank
it
you,
back
bro.
up and going, man.
We back.
Yeah.
But so for me, that's the creative process. It starts with being motivated, and it's almost like a lifestyle to me. I'm always looking for things that move me. A lot of times it's music. Sometimes it's talking to your family, your elders. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's trying something new in the kitchen,
Yeah.
a good meal, working out.
Yeah.
You know, but so that's the starting point of my creative process, and at that point, you go from there. You know?
Yeah. So, and I'm, you know, when I asked that question, but when I think about it, I asked that because I wanted to know what it actually was.
Oh, okay.
But
okay.
no, you're good. You're
Okay.
good. And I appreciate everything you said because it invokes thought in me. For one, you know, like I call myself a Renaissance kind of person. You know?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I really wanted to be able to do was documentaries. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about things being inspired, I don't know if you guys ever heard about Khalif Bowder. Did you guys hear about
Yeah,
him?
man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I tried to do a documentary on Khalif Bowder, but the inspiration behind that was the fact that this 15-year-old kid endured
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
sufferings that trained soldiers probably couldn't have dealt.
That's powerful.
That gave me inspiration though, to write about him, to let people know, hey, this stuff is happening, man.
Yeah.
And if we don't stand up and say something, it's going to continue to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I've always looked for that inspiration or that creative process, and now I know exactly where to look. It's what I see
Yeah.
and what moves me.
That's right.
That's going to be my creative process.
Yeah.
Man, wow. I've been searching forever for it. Now I got it though.
That's
Now I
what's
got
up. Hope I
it.
can help, man.
I appreciate it though. The technical aspect of producing and dancing, I'm sure you know. That's another area where I struggle with is the technical
Yeah,
part of
production.
doing stuff. You know? Yeah, man. So what's that? You know.
Yeah. So production, A15, we produce plays. We actually produced a documentary. We worked with the
Okay.
Rockford Park District to produce a documentary on the Live at Leving's talent show and concert series. Been going on for almost 40 years in Rockford.
Yeah.
And we
Now
put-
is that documentary out now?
It's on
man?
YouTube, man.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
grab it, man. Make
Yep.
sure I get that so I can grab it.
Will do.
man.
Yep. You can YouTube 815 Capital EIGHT FIFTEEN
Just text it to me so I don't forget it because I've been forgot all of that.
Got you.
But yeah.
So that's the experience we have, and then we do event production. You know, you can call it party promoting. There was a time we did a lot more of it, but we do a lot less of it now.
Yeah.
And we produce the stage plays. You
Yeah.
know, what that entails is your job is to make sure that there's a quality product and experience for the consumer, for the person who's buying the ticket, or for the person who's interacting with your product. So a lot of times it starts with a vision of success. You know, on the back end, what do we want people to be able to say about our production? We want to be able to say it was beautifully shot. We want to be able to say the characters performed very well. We want to be able to say that the audio was crisp. We want them to be able to say that they were entertained, they enjoyed it, they had a good time. So considering that on the back end, now you got to build it. Okay, so in terms of it being beautifully shot, who can work the camera for us? You have to acquire like a camera person or some audio people like we got in here. You
Right,
know?
yeah.
And then maybe you got to cast it. That's your job as a producer when you're producing it. So you have to carve out time for people to audition, and you have to publicize the audition opportunities. Make sure they got an organized experience. Hey, there's a piece of a script for you. We want you to read for this character. You know, there's a block of lines. You give them a background, and you let them fly. You assess whether they did good. Don't you cast them?
Yeah.
You're building a cast that can bring this play to life. Then there's set design.
Yeah.
You want it to be visually appealing. So, man, you got to be serious about the set, you know, materials, colors, lighting. That's your job as a producer. You know, your job is to bring this thing to life so that on the back end, the customer enjoys it and they say good things about it. They want to come back.
Right.
So your job as a producer, you like we all heard the name, rest in peace, Quincy Jones. You know what I mean? The brother just passed away.
Absolutely.
So his job was to do that around music.
Oh, Quincy Jones passed away?
Yeah, like about a month ago, I think.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Quincy Jones passed away, bro.
I did not know that, man.
So, he did that bringing in musicians. He did that with technology, microphones. He did that with song lyrics. He just was organizing and orchestrating it. So for us, it's the same thing.
So somewhere between the performance and the tech, they've got to meet.
Yeah.
And they've got to line up perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you get a performer, but the tech is bad,
It's over with.
or if you get the tech that's good
And
and
the
then a bad
performer is flat.
performer,
Yeah, that's
so
not
they
good.
got to meet up and they got to
Yeah.
meet at some point and be perfectly
Aligned.
aligned with one another.
So that's somebody's responsibility. It's the responsibility of the artist. We talked about Aimee Césaire. So it's a job, and it's like project management almost. You got to see from 30,000 feet the pieces to the puzzle and make sure they're coming together.
Yeah. So before you arrived, we were kind of talking about how we used to see plays and concerts. It was a little before your time. It was back in the 80s, when we had New American Theater and all that stuff. But what I want to say is after that, though, in the 90s, do you remember seeing, like plays or things like that going on in Rockford at all? Because I don't really remember seeing a lot of that.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, they kind of like,
No, definitely not plays.
yeah.
I mean, you would get like performance, but for most of us in our culture, it was more like dance related.
Dance.
Type
Was it a lot
performance.
of dance performances going on too in the 90s then? So when were the dance teams? The dance teams came out like in the 80s, right? Or was that the 90s?
I think there's a lot of history in Rockford around dance teams, like dancers, and from house parties to, events. There's a lot of, I know there's a brother named Wani. He's a barber.
Yeah, I know one.
And he had a dance group called the Fellas. I don't know if
Okay.
you heard about this.
Oh yeah, yeah. Wandy still dance to this day.
Okay.
So that goes back that far. And
And this was in the 80s or 90s?
I would
with
say
Wani?
the late 80s,
Late 80s,
early
okay.
90s. And but then you get groups like Fatally Unique. I don't know if you heard about this group in Rockford.
Yeah,
Back in the
they,
90s.
they took it all the way
Yeah.
to in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Mid-2000s, okay.
When like 106 in Park used to have like the
Yeah.
little dance battles. They took it on the national scale and was in
And
New York
they were
competing.
from Rockford, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of those kids that danced in that group, we used to be one of my former students, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
Yeah, so I do kind of remember that a little bit. And then that all kind of like started fading away too, or is it still going on right now with the dance groups?
I mean, they do now. It's in the Midwest we're a little behind, but I think like the majorette and that style of dancing it's always been a thing. Like
Yeah.
down in like the HBCU in the southern,
Yeah.
parts of the nation, and I think you're seeing a lot more of that now. Like
Right.
in our area in the Midwest, you see a lot of
Majorette.
all age groups. Man, they just doing more of a
Okay, and that's a good thing,
a
right?
majorette style dance
Okay.
competition. You know,
Also the TikTok piece,
Oh,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like that has everybody, especially the kids, they setting their phones up and they recording themselves
Right, yeah.
doing these little dances. So dancing is still very much alive, but it's not what it used to be.
The
it's just
message is different
Yeah,
now.
it's just different. It's
Definitely different now, because I see some of those TikTok dances,
Yeah.
and one thing about it is it's the old to the young. So
They all doing it.
I see old heads doing those young dances, and I'm saying to myself, you should know better. That's me.
Yeah,
I'm
I
saying
feel
that
you,
about
man.
the
I
you
feel
should
you,
know better
man.
because
We approach the productions we do by you have to almost teach the consumer. You have to teach them why this play is important, why it's significant to you in your experience, and how it can entertain you. We have to teach you why. Like I said, we used to do parties. Like, why is this party important to you? What's going to be happening here that will help you enjoy yourself, meet people, enjoy food, music? We had to teach people.
yeah.
It goes all the way down to, we do concerts with the Rockford Park District now. every year at Levings. This past year, we did this thing called the baddest band in the land.
Okay.
It was a Midwest battle of bands.
And this was at Levings Park.
Yep.
Okay.
We had a band from Ohio. No, we had a band from Detroit, Michigan. We had a band from Milwaukee, and then we had a band from Champaign, Illinois.
Okay.
And we had to teach people, the baddest band in the land, 3 bands from across the Midwest competing for a $1,000 cash prize and a trophy. You know, the culture is being lifted up on full display.
Mm-hmm.
If you like reggae music, if you like jazz fusion, if you like some hip hop, if you like some R&B, this is where you need to be. So that's education. You got to teach people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's almost being respectful to your audience. You know, you got to be able to slow down a little bit and open up the curtain and say, hey, look, this is what's going on. This is why it's special. This is how it connects to you. If you're not willing to do that, I think you leaving money on the table almost as a producer. But as a, you know, in terms of growing the culture, if people don't feel like they have an on-ramp or if they can connect and relate to it, they're going to turn their back on it.
Yeah.
So from our side, teaching people, you know, through your production, through the art that you're trying to present, you got to be baked into it. You can't be afraid to think about, okay, how are we even talking about this? Can people feel this and understand it?
Yeah.
You know, where are we bringing the information? Flyers, tickets, you know, where are we bringing it? Oh, is it accessible to people?
Yeah.
Am I making myself available to talk about it and tell the story? Because you have to teach. You have to teach.
How difficult is it to connect the educational component to the performance component? Because when I tried to do my Khalif Bowder documentary, it was called Khalif Bowder Memoriam, the message I wanted to educate people on was, like I said before, this is really happening.
Yeah.
Can you really believe this kid does 3 years in Rikers because he was accused of robbing someone 2 weeks after the event had happened?
That's crazy.
And the only evidence was he had a book bag that looked like that one, you know.
A book bag.
So I wanted people to know. So when you guys bring the Battle of the Bands, for example, you know, how do you mail that educational message with that performance so people don't just think, you know, this is a free for all, you know, let's come out have a good time and let's go home with nothing. But after the party's over, the lights turn off, we have nothing left.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But I want to remember something.
Yes, sir.
I want to be able to say, you know, like, what was that big concert they did back in the 70s, for example? It's all over Hulu, you know. I can't think.
Lollapalooza? No. What is it? Woodstock?
One Woodstock. This was one.
A black Watt stack? What is it? Stacks? Like Watts?
But
like
the point is that I wasn't even there. I wasn't even around at that time. But when I saw it on Hulu, I learned from it. And then I said to myself, hey, that's what I want to be at. That's where we need to be at. So to connect that educational component back to that performance or that event, you know, not, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think to connect that educational piece, you know, I think that for me and for what we do, it's part of the creative process. Going back to that question you asked me earlier. Part of the creative process is above and beyond selling tickets, above and beyond making money. You know, how does this align with what we believe in? Okay. You know what I mean? Our values, our heroes, you know what I'm saying? Our principles, you know, our holidays, you know what I mean? For us, by us. That's the biggest thing. So baked into it is the cultural position, the cultural value. Like, this is important by way of our history, by way of our style, you know what I mean? And it needs to be evident in the graphics, the posters. It needs to be evident in the cast and the DJs and the, you know, and that way it's a much easier story to tell. Now for me, so for you had a documentary about a tragedy. It's a little bit harder to kind of tell that story and excite people. For us, we're doing entertainment. You know, we're doing food now, food and beverage at the coffee shop. Okay. So it's a little bit easier for us to get people excited about Battle of the Bands, or we did an event called Fashion, Family, and Fun. Okay. You know what I mean? We love style and presentation. So that's how we do it, you know. And through the fashion, we're teaching you about presentation, color, designers, and you know what I mean, and family in the process.
Does that component, does that relate back to who we are as a people? Is there a connection, the colors, the design, the style?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Does that relate back to us culturally?
Yeah, that time, so this was 3 years ago, we did something at Levings. It was called the Court Community Showcase. It was fashion, family, and fun. And we had these 3 designers do runway shows at the park. Okay. It was a platform we created, and it's all about our style. We love to put it on.
We do.
We love to put it on. And what we just challenged them to do was, it has to be your own unique designs. It has to be family friendly, so adults all the way down to kids, wardrobe. And you got to be speaking about why these designs are important, beyond what it looked like. Why is it important? And we had music playing behind them, and it worked out perfect. So I think, you got to bake the culture in. It is all about who we are as a people, and I think that's what the communication is. That emotion, it pulls on that emotion.
So one thing that there's a lot of events going on apparently in Rockford, because the only one I remember from this past summer was Sir Charles.
Oh, huge. That was huge.
A big part of it, I think, is like he said. I mean, you gotta almost like build it. Like in Rockford, it's never been like a mainstream thing here. So having events of that nature, he almost like you gotta kind of birth it.
So one of the challenges
and grow it in a way where people start to build interest and they want to see more of it, because it's not something that we see.
Is it difficult to get the message out like that, though? Is it difficult to let people know? Because, again, I'm sitting here and I'm hearing you, man, and I probably would have went to all those events, but I only knew about the one.
I'm familiar, like we never met directly, but I'm familiar with who you are just by seeing you doing that type of work.
Appreciate it, man.
It's always like, even from the parties to
yes, sir.
The family stuff to trying to educate people just on the entrepreneur side. So man, I just think that Rockford just need to be promoted more. Like, you could do events like that and they go under the table, but it's just because you got to build the interest around it. I think people just want to.
Well, I want to say
they'll party, but if it's something that's outside of the realm of a
dignity.
good time, where you can hit the facts, where maybe like even a play, man, that like, to me, that's major. If you got a black production,
yes, sir.
A black cast,
yes, sir.
Putting together something for us,
yes, sir.
To come, and it's the optic of that, might even you bring your young kid there, and they might be like, I want to do this one day, you even got all the way up to Broadway level, black productions and stuff like that. I just think we don't aim for that. We want to rap, we want to play basketball, football. I just think the arts, we just need to have more of that opportunity in the city for people to get involved in it.
Agree. Yes, and I want to say shame on me first of all, because I should be on top of this and know about this.
Nah, man, it's so we the brothers talked about the internet, all the social media. We're it's a fight for our attention, like every second of the day. You know what I mean? Yeah. And TV, streaming services, social media apps, radio if you get in the car, now satellite radio, terrestrial radio. So it's really an attention economy nowadays, and these corporations and these companies are fighting for our attention. So it's not easy, man. They're telling us what to think. They're telling us what's important, what to pay attention to. And that's why it's scary about the kids. Yeah. But that's a whole nother conversation. For us, when it came to the play we did, The Wind and the Breeze, we also did a play called Barbecue.
See, I didn't.
Yeah, it's all good.
Was that done here in Rockford too?
It was done here in Rockford.
Okay.
We were very fortunate that we had, with The Wind and the Breeze, we had 12 sold out performances.
Wow,
With Barbecue, we had 13 sold out performances. Yeah. So, in our community, the metro area, Rockford metro area, 350,000 people when you get to talking about boom, Winnebago County, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people here, man. Yeah. Everybody ain't gonna be able to see it.
No, that's a fact.
So we do what we can to layer our communication. We do hand to hand, we still do guerrilla style, We in front of people with flyers telling them stories. We do our own for us, by us, you know what I'm saying, content.
One of the things I do want to say, I do want to salute SkoCity Podcast for being the proud founder and a member of the No Shade Network movement across Rockford. So that's one of the things that I've lacked in my own life, is not going out to those different events, because that's where you find out what's really going on.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think, and this is kind of getting off the point, but I think we need to create that network where we support each other and we lift each other up, you know. We've talked about it 1,000 times, you know, and I don't know why. Well, yeah, I do know why it is. We tend to take away from each other, you know. If I see Matt doing something, it ain't all that great, you know. And I can't do anything better, but simply because you're doing it, now we need to get rid of that, that shade. Let's throw that away.
No shade.
So we created this thing called No Shade Network moving across Rockford. So everybody become a part of it. All right.
I love that.
So I wanted to say that.
Thank you.
And the other thing, is I have to blame myself, though. I have to take responsibility as well too. And I think as the older generation, that's the thing we need to do. We should be behind you guys, lifting you guys up, supporting you guys, you know. And like you said, there's layers to getting the message out. But hey, you got a foundation right here.
We do.
And so I want to say to the old heads like myself, get up off your butts and let's get active. Let's get involved with what's going on.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, like you said, our kids are not going to know.
Yeah, we got to be willing, man. I feel like to introduce our kids to it's multiple layers to culture.
Yes,
obviously you got music and fashion and just food, everything. I mean, we got a broad culture. I mean, amongst us. So introducing our kids to the performing arts, I feel like it's something that we need to take more of a put more importance on that, man. Allowing kids to see something beyond what they might see on the TV, because it's not like you see major productions of this nature like on TV, even on the content side, like you don't see a ton of that. So I feel like if we can have it within our city and you have an opportunity to introduce your kids, even if it's just taking them out and supporting the show, I feel like we should definitely be looking to do that.
Yeah, and I think we need to also focus on, I think, the therapeutic component of theater.
Yeah.
Because if I see you telling your story, that's going to inspire me to tell mine. It possibly could. Inspire me to tell my story.
I agree. Yeah.
I may even relate to your story.
Yep.
I may want to build on that story. But the point is that it's bringing us together. And it's providing therapy. Now I have an outlet to express all these pent-up feelings of anger,
Yeah, that's real.
I tried to be a writer. And I remember I wrote a little spiel about being an angry man, And in this thing, I listed all the reasons I was angry. And when I went back and looked at it, I looked at all the reasons I was angry, but I didn't have it out for not a one of them.
Wow.
So I had to sit there and recognize my anger.
Wow, man.
And not be able to do a thing about it unless I project it off on somebody else in a negative way. So I think there's a therapeutic component that we need to bring out. And it can be both positive and negative if we're not careful.
I think it's like, speaking of culture, like you writing, you talked about how we stretch our kids' perspective, exposing them to more things.
Oh, yeah.
How do you change culture? I like to think about, instead of trying to change culture, how do you grow it? Like agriculture, what I'm saying? Like, how do you grow the culture? Because there's so many aspects of our culture that are positive, that helped us to survive, very, very treacherous situations. How we are resilient. We put our head down. We just dig in and muscle through it. How we find a way to look good, no matter what the situation.
Right. Yeah.
How we find a way to shine. And be seen. In spite of the pressure that society puts on us. That's a function of our culture. That can cut both ways though, because sometimes maybe you're reaching too far into the bank account to try to be seen. You know what I mean? And it's hurting other things in your life. Yeah. If we can do more to just be models or present more models to people, then you got more options and choices. We ain't trying to make nobody do anything, but we want to just present them with more choices so they can make their own decision about how to be a man, how to be a woman, You know, in our
Right.
culture, there's so many ways to do it, but they only show us 3 ways.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
That's what frustrates me. So I think when you talk about responsibility, all of us have that responsibility to be who we are, not try to be perfect, not try to fit nobody's box, but just to be who we are.
Yeah.
You know, a more full version of a man or a woman, so people can see, oh wow, you know, like that is a father, that is an entrepreneur, that is a, you know, a son, brother, and it's a healthy way to do it, and it look good. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where we can make an impact, just doing our thing and being models for our brothers and sisters. You know.
I agree 100%. So another aspect of, you know, performing arts is, you know, and I think it's major, is being diversified. It's diversity, being able to reach across the audience, to cross cultures, to bring something to a culture or to a people who, hey, I didn't know that, man. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, to learn from that. So how important would you say diversity is in that capacity, to be able to reach the masses who, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we don't limit ourselves to just be inclusive of a particular group, but we open up.
I get it.
Because, you know, everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody does, you know.
Yeah.
We, as African Americans, we've went through a lot.
Yeah.
Hispanics went through a lot.
Yes, sir.
There was Europeans that went through a lot. Everybody's
Absolutely.
got a story to tell.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but when we do performing arts, that we let them tell that story. We bring those stories together.
Yeah.
And that's how we're going to unite, you know,
Yeah.
lifting each other up.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I think what I've come to understand is when I've been through things in my life, the experiences that I've had, it makes me relate to people better.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I go through things and come out on the other side, I can now dig inside of myself and pull out another story or example that can maybe help somebody else.
Right.
So I think it's the same for art and performance and culture and things like that. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
Like I didn't go through that, but I went through this, and I can appreciate how unique that was. Yeah. So diversity is powerful, and I think sometimes people kind of beat us over the head with diversity as a way to say like, don't worry about how we're different. We all need to come together. I don't hear you saying that. I hear you saying like, the things that make me unique and special, I need to be able to speak to it and appreciate the things that make you unique and special. That human experience it cuts through cultures.
Right.
So when you're on the stage and you see pain or you see happiness and joy, everybody can appreciate that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's important. I think so.
Yeah, and I think that's the message we you know, need to drive, because I think if we speak more about human drama.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Not about race drama, but human drama.
Wow.
Because,
man.
You know, we've all been through it. Let's face it, okay?
Real.
You know,
For real.
So I think, you correct me if I'm wrong again, but I think to me, when I write, I try to write anyway.
Yeah, I feel you.
I do want to say, guys, I do have one book published already, but it's not that great.
Okay.
But in the book,
Don't say it's not great.
No, man, he can write. Don't listen to him. He'll a wealth of information.
I believe it.
I'm not sure about that. But I strive to communicate a message to the human race.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I want you to be included as my
sure.
brother. Don't get me wrong.
For sure.
But you're not my only brother.
Come on now.
You know, I have other, I guess it goes back to what Christ said. I have other sheep that is not of this fold, and they know me, they hear my voice. And I'm not saying I'm Jesus.
Nah.
I don't nobody go and say I'm saying that. But what I am saying though is that you've got a voice just like I got a voice.
Yeah.
And I think with drama, even with music, wouldn't you say that sometimes that diversity should come through it?
Yeah.
And I think what happened when we talk about drill music, I'm gonna use the term landlocked. It sort of got landlocked just on us.
That's heavy, man.
And so we had
That's heavy.
116,000 murders going on, you know, because I think drill music got landlocked on us.
Yeah, it did.
It didn't open up the door and say, hey, you know, and this becomes important again, because in my opinion, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I think why diversity is important, because we're the only people who glorify the murder and the degradation of each other in our music.
It's sick, man.
I think we should almost try to open up more of a gateway amongst our people to say that, like, I mean, in the simplest form is that it is like to tell one another that it's okay. Like, you got a lot of talented people who might be able to write or sing or draw or produce or dance.
Yeah.
But it's almost like this dark cloud over us, like it's not okay to do that.
That's
like
crazy.
you somehow invalidated in a way if you choose to step out and do something different than what mainstream says you should be doing.
Yeah.
Because we subscribe to it, most of us.
Yes,
like
we do.
we think like the exact way they want us to think. Like if you're not rapping, if it's not, got a street edge to it, or it's just not got that whole credibility aspect to it. I think most of us shun it away, like, oh man, I'm not
crazy,
finna
man.
go right, man. That's for suckers.
That's
or
right. That's right, man.
I'm not gonna go and try to produce a play like who want to see that. You know what I mean? I think we minimize what we could truthfully do because we just don't think it's okay.
Man.
And I think we should just tell one another, just in a simple form, it's okay.
I love that, man. I think, and I think that's when you see the most success. When you find that it's okay, or maybe when you being who you are, when you're being authentic, that's when you find the most success. When you're leaning into that truth, your truth. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that that translates into you got to eat. We talked about that. You got to eat. And nothing wrong with making money. You know what I'm saying? So when you can lean into who you are, I find that you are more successful. There are examples of people who put that costume on and follow the program, and they making money too. But I feel like that's the difference between like a little Debbie snack, quick sugar money, and like a real meal. You know what I'm saying? I think the message, what you're saying is helping people understand, like, listen, be who you are, because people can smell the fake stuff like shark can smell the water in the blood. I mean, blood in the water. You know what I'm saying? It's like, be who you are. That's the way to win. Yeah. And helping people feel comfortable, though. That's the challenge. Like, helping people feel comfortable, man. Like, man, I want to learn how to play a trumpet. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm the only person who's doing it. Is it cool for me to do it? Forget it. You know what I mean? Lean into it. Listen to Louis Armstrong. Right. He did it. You know what I'm saying? We got examples in our ancestors that can show us we can do it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. All right. So listen, guys, I've had a great time. This has been a great conversation. I want to wrap it up real quick, but I want to give you an opportunity to just talk about some of the events you got going on, a little bit about your company, we'll know what's going on out there.
So I'm a partner in a business called 815 Capital. We do events underneath the division Court, K-O-R-T, Kings of the Round Table. And very fortunate to be doing work with the Rockford Park District. Every summer we program entertainment for Live at Levings. We've produced stage plays with the West Side Showroom. We intend to do another stage play. And 815 Capital, we also own a coffee shop in downtown Rockford called Wired Cafe. And at Wired, we do entertainment. Now, we brought some of that expertise into the cafe space. So we do something called Wired After Dark.
Okay.
Every couple months. Now, recently we had a situation in the coffee shop. We closed down for a while. We back open. But what we did was we shut the shop down, moved all the furniture out, put chairs up, and we have live performances. Tickets only $10.
Okay.
And it's a way for us to bring some of that culture into our space. Now, speaking of diversity, we've had R&B soul band. We've had a acoustic rock band, live music. We're trying to get, I don't know what the term, banda music, some of the Mexican, Mexican, regional Mexican music.
Is it called mariachi or something like that? Or
So speaking of diversity, you know what I mean? We're trying to be diverse with it, I think, because the live music piece cuts through. You hear those instruments playing live in person, it hits you.
I think that's why Afrobeats did win mainstream. Yes. The instrumentation and make you want to move. Everybody feel good.
Listening to Afrobeats.
All right.
I promise I'd heard a song like, man, who is this?
So how often do you do your live performances at the Wired Cafe?
Wired Cafe.
How often is that done?
So next year we'll be doing it 6 times throughout the year. So every 2 months.
Great. All right. So listen, thank you guys once again for joining SkoCity Podcast with Dewan, with my man Matthew.
Yes, sir.
I'm God's son, and I've enjoyed this conversation. Until next time, winter is here, so stay warm.
For sure.